Good evening. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson, and you are joined as always by Josh Bowe. We're both editors over at MavsMoneyball.com. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing okay. You got to miss the funny enough, you didn't pod after the Cleveland game. Not trying to say you should have, but it's kind of funny how on paper this should have been a more fun game to talk about. Considering the Mavericks should have lost that Cleveland game by like 1 billion points, and instead they made that kind of more fun than they should.
What? It was a weird, fun game.
And then they did, and then they knew you were coming back for the podcast, so they did this tonight, which I think was a much less fun effort in this loss to Memphis.
See, I can't help myself. I read our comments too much, and I want to interact with our wonderful fans, and everyone is out of their mind. The Dallas Mavericks lost to the Memphis Grizzlies 119-104. This was a bad loss. So the Dallas Mavericks are without Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, who will be out for, and let's be candid about it, an indeterminate amount of time. We'll talk about that more later. The Grizzlies were without Ja Morant, Santi Aldama, Desmond Bane, Christ, and like 9 other players that they could have had. Like, it was the Mavericks should have walked into this game and pantsed the Grizzlies. And in the first quarter, they did. They were up 36-26. Everybody was playing pretty good. And then what happened was everyone died all at once. Everyone. Dallas did not do anything interesting on offense. They did not do anything interesting on defense. And slowly and surely, the Grizzlies, who are a 15-person team of dudes, of guys that fight and claw and work, slowly chipped away at the Mavericks, punched them in the face in the second quarter, gave a second punch to the face in the third quarter, and never looked back. Dallas was this is an embarrassing loss. This is a coaching staff loss. The Mavericks players themselves should feel shame at how most of them performed. I was grossed out watching this game. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I think there's going to be some, and we even, I pushed back on our own Matthew in our Slack about this, and I think there's going to be some pushback on.
Oh yeah, because no one watched this game. I'm like, if you didn't watch this game and you have an opinion on it, shut the fuck up.
There's definitely some people are going to want to push back on this was a bad loss, because I think people are going to subscribe to the theory that as long as Luka and Kyrie are out, there's no such thing as a bad loss. But if I may offer a counter, if this roster is as good as we all think it is, which that's we, myself, you, everyone, I think we all agree that this is the best roster probably since the 2011 title team in terms of depth, in terms of well-roundedness, in terms of strengths, the way they can mitigate some of their weaknesses. This is a really good team. And I think that we saw it. They played about 6 or so games when everyone was healthy. I know that's not a lot, but when they put Lively back in the starting lineup, and Luka came back from his week off with the wrist injury, those games, I think they played about 6 games with that starting lineup, and they were kicking the shit out of everyone. And they got to what, 20? They were 20-10, I think. Despite in and out injuries to Luka, to Kyrie, to PJ, to Lively. So, like, I think we all agree, if this team is as good as we think it is at full strength, I don't think it is unreasonable to have an expectation level that they should be able to win a game against another team that is also just maybe not equally shorthanded, but very much shorthanded as well. Losing to full strength Sacramento, even though they're not great. Okay, I get it.
Nope, don't get it.
No, I know you didn't like that one. You didn't like that one. I know. But like Memphis, like they were on an even playing field roster talent wise. Obviously, Jaren Jackson Jr. was the best player on the floor. He's an all-star. That makes a big difference. But past that, like if you had to rank the players that played in this game, like the 2 through 6, I think would all be Dallas, and 1 would be obviously Memphis with Jaren Jackson Jr. So, like, I'm just saying, if you think the roster's that good, you can't be like, well, you know, what are you going to do? They can't win this game because, you know, no Luka and Kyrie. But then you can't also be like, well, this is, you know, a title contender, and this is the best roster that they've had in years. Some would say over a decade. Like, if they are that good, they should be able to win a game against another team that's also shorthanded and missing their best player, Ja Morant. Their 2 best creators, Morant and Desmond Bain. They're 2 best perimeter creators. So you can't have it both ways, right? Like, but that's not an indictment. It's not like the season is over, and I know a lot of people do think the season is over with these injuries. But like, it's okay to be like, this is disappointing that they lost this game. I like, that is not a hot take, because I think this roster is really good, and I hold it to a little bit of a higher standard. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, this was a bad. That we're allowed to say this is a bad loss, and not, you know, get yelled at or shush by anyone, because I don't think that's just an unreasonable opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. Yeah. But I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, how dare you? You know, they're missing Luka and Kyrie. What do you expect? And it's like, well, this is really
because we see flashes of them not being garbage. That's up real trick. 12. Like they've lost 3 out of their last 5 games while having a double-digit lead. Yeah. If they weren't good, they wouldn't have established those leads. Now you can look and say, all right, there's some hot shooting, the other teams, and there's some variance that affect at play, and I'm willing to have those discussions. But this game was gutting because the Mavericks did not show anything interesting that could indicate that they're able to survive challenges. I mean, they scored 36 points in the first quarter, 19 in the second, then 25 and 24. Like 104 points in an NBA game these days is bad.
What do you think their offensive rating was for this game?
Ooh, that's a great question. Tell me.
It was I had it. Mm-hmm. Where is it? Oh, I lost it. Hold on.
It's all right.
It was 98.1 points per 100 possessions.
That's impossibly horrible, guys.
Very, very bad. Very, very bad.
And it's not fun to talk about this stuff. Like, there's one guy who follows both of us, was like, hey, nobody's going to want to listen to Mavs anything over the next few weeks. And there's really something to that.
I don't want to talk about Mavs anything for the next 2 weeks.
I'm not super interested. I was like, you know, did you watch anything interesting on Apple Plus free weekend?
Can we sim to All-Star break?
Because it really is going to be that bleak. And like, they ran one play that I thought was interesting the entire game. And it was like a 90s old school cross screen for Lively where he got a jump hook. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do remember that play.
It was like first or second quarter. And I was like, okay, there's some actions going on here. Otherwise, it was the same dribble handoff to guys that can't drive, dribble handoff to, Lively's got to kick it out. Klay Thompson, who was 2 of 8 from 2-point range. Like, here's the thing. I want to kick Kid in the knees. I'm looking at this box score and I'm sitting here going, okay, that tells me what I thought, that every single player that played for the Dallas Mavericks needs to look in the mirror and ask what the hell they were doing tonight. Like, there were some awful performances. Awful. And we could really go through them all. And you know, I that's probably not great content, but it's just, you're looking through this. And if you have a particular person you want to kick in the shins out of this Mavs lineup, you can do it, because they all sucked. I mean, Lively has a 14 and 12, but he only had 7 defensive rebounds. And I wasn't particularly impressed by him outside of flashes. He might have been, but he's probably at the top of the dung heap, so to speak.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, he didn't guard Jaren Jackson Jr. directly, but obviously,
well, that's so that's actually probably the place
you want
to
get into
start, don't you think?
Yeah, because that's the game was what Jackson did. Because remember, Jackson had a terrible game the last time these two teams played.
He was terrible, and he came out to play tonight. He had 35 points, 13 rebounds, five assists, 3 steals, blocks, and only 2 turnovers. He was a +9. He marched to the free throw line, 12 total free throws. I would be willing to bet that's among his highest free throw shooting games this season. And here's the thing, guys. Dallas did not send a second body at him ever, not even like a shadow, not even like, oh, hey, maybe somebody's going to come at you. Nothing. They let whoever was guarding him get destroyed on repeat. And the coaching staff should feel bad about that. That's the coaching staff stuff that we're talking about here, guys. That part of it.
Like if Lively wasn't guarding him a lot tonight, well, why not?
Why not? Like, quit being so fucking scared of Derek Lively fouling. I'm tired. He plays the same number of minutes that he played last season. It's time to let Big Baby grow up. He's got to play through these problems. Kid insists on the rest of the Mavericks playing through their fucking problems. Why can't Derek Lively? Why are we so worried? Like, you even did it in our Slack. You popped in and you're like, oh no, he's picked up his second foul. And I'm like, Josh, it's the second quarter. It's okay. But you're so like, even you're kind of kid pilled where you're like, he's going to pull him out of the game.
I know.
And he was forced to play him minutes tonight because we didn't even talk about
add another one.
Daniel Gafford hurting himself. Like,
he sprained his ankle.
This was like it was a maddening defensive choice by the Mavericks. What are they afraid of?
Would you believe this was the most minutes Lively has played in a game this season?
Absolutely, because kid's that kind of butthead. Why would you play your best player a whole bunch, or not your best player? Why would you play your best post player as many minutes as possible?
Yeah, I don't know. He hasn't eclipsed, he was 27 minutes per game in December. He was 22 minutes per game in November. So yeah, I don't know, maybe they're easing him back in. He's going up, but yeah, kind of bizarre. He kind of felt like, yeah, you're right. He had to kind of like, I don't think he would have played 33 minutes if Gafford didn't get hurt. Like, I don't think that was a necessity. Because you just can't play,
if you're
pal that much anymore.
If you're worried about him getting hurt, that is a thing that I will actually understand. If you're worried about him fouling out, he's, as far as I know, he's yet to foul out a game this season. So that's a concern. That's a concern without cause.
And he finished with 3 fouls in 33 minutes. So, especially like in the fourth quarter when he's got 3 fouls, like
they were all in the first half. That's what that means.
So why don't you
in the first half?
Why don't you put him, like, once he is already established that he's not necessarily in deep foul trouble in the fourth quarter? Why don't you roll him out there on JJJ some more often and see if you could do something to slow him down? Because here's the thing, he just scored in the paint. It's not like, how Lively has struggled.
He's a 3-point shooter, and he did not rain threes.
Right, Lively has struggled with stretch 5. So when you think about JJJ going off against the Mavs, you're like, oh well, he must have stretched Lively out to the 3-point line and bombs away. No, he was 12 of 21 in the paint. He made 1 3-pointer, and I think he only took 2. Am I looking at that right? Yeah, he only took 2. He only took 2. Those were the only 2 jumpers he took all game. Every other shot was in the paint, either in the restricted area or the paint outside the restricted area. Yeah. So like, why, he's shooting these jump hooks over PJ Washington, who's a good defender, but like just a little bit smaller. Everyone he was shooting against that wasn't Lively, he had such a considerable size advantage. He was just kind of floating up some floaters and jump hooks like they're almost, practice level shots because the guys that were guarding him were so small. I mean, Klay Thompson guarded him for a possession or 2. And then maybe that was a switch and not necessarily intended, but like you got to bother him a little bit more than that. And Lively was the only player, especially after Gafford went down, that could contain him one-on-one. Now, were they scared that if they put Lively on JJJ that Memphis was just going to pick and pop them to death? And it's like, okay, but you lost, you know what I mean? Like, you lost anyway. Like, you got to, we'll never try than fail. Right. I'd rather them try and fail than not try at all. Because what they did tonight with Jackson was just, it was untenable, and they lost. They lost by 15 points. It wasn't even, too much. They tried to make it close, but like, they got it down to like 6. Like, it was never a 1 possession game in the fourth quarter.
Well, it's pretty amazing to have data staring you in the face and not do anything different about it. And with that in mind, I want to take a second to talk to you about our podcast's official sponsor, Bodyspec. Right before the holidays, Bodyspec approached us to partner, and what they do is they provide you a DEXA scan. It's a full body composition stand that helps you understand what's going on with your body. Let's say you're a person like Josh and I, you work from home. Let's say you're a person in your mid-20s and you're training for a triathlon or something crazy like that. Let's say you're really old and you're kind of afraid about what it means to get back in shape. A DEXA scan is a great starting point. It really helps you figure out where you are on your fitness journey. If you'll click in the show notes, there's a link for Bodyspec, and it takes you to a webpage specifically designed for us here at Pod Maverick. If you'll use the promo code, all caps, PodMavs45, you'll get $15 off a single scan, and it's a really great way to kickstart your fitness journey here in the new year. I needed to get his permission for this, so I forgot to do this, but a friend of the show who a lot of people that watch this show actually watch, shot me a message and said he got a DEXA scan, and he said, the value the DEXA scan gives you at that price point is awesome. I plan to get another one this summer and at the end of the year. The results are easy to understand for anybody. And if you're, committed to your New Year's resolution, I really think it's something you should try. Bodyspec's competitors charge as much as $150 for a scan like this. So you'll be getting real usable information for a great price. Again, visit the bodyspec.com link in the show notes and use the code PODMAVS45 at the end of checkout. Josh and I have already done this a couple of times. I swear probably later in January, once I'm a little bit further into my New Year's resolution, and it's not a night when I've learned that the kids are going to be home the second half of the week, we will talk a little bit more about our experiences with Bodyspec. If you'll give me just a second, I'm going to insert some other ads, which I'd appreciate if you took the 30 seconds to listen to. Very much helps Josh and I. We will be right back. All right. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't subscribed to our show, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, we appreciate that sort of thing. All the engagement. Guys, I've had a really rough start to the year and really rough end of the year in terms of work. So I've not been able to track all the comments, but I just can't tell you how much we appreciate that sort of thing. Our show's growing a little bit by bit. Mavericks are going to take a little bit of bump here in the next couple of weeks, which means our show growth will probably start. But I'll tell you, if you're here, if you're with us when it's Najee Marshall point guard, then you're going to be with us when it's Luka Doncic at the all NBA level. So we very much value all of you guys who have stuck with us for the long haul here. All right, so we talked a little bit, the one-on-one of Jared Jackson Jr. was that. That's the coaching decision that lost the game. But beyond that, it's just guys, I need you to play better. Klay Thompson stopped shooting running two-pointers where it's he is such a balanced shooter, and I know he can make things off the move, but there was Tokyo drift going on with some of his jump shots where he's leaping and traveling 3 feet between when he shoots it and where he lands. That's hard. Why are you not just taking the open threes that are granted to you? This was, and he's just one example. Who else should we talk about here?
I thought PJ Washington played an interesting game.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know that's a nice way to put it. I mean, they really tried to get him going. They gave him a lot of opportunities. I thought that was the one thing that the coaching staff did offensively that I actually liked, was kind of what they did with PJ. He just had to finish his opportunities, and he didn't. He had a couple of really nice pick and roll plays as the pick and roll ball handler, finishing that floater, that push shot in the paint. And I kind of wish they kind of tried to keep going to it. So it wasn't a case of why don't they run this more? No, they kind of did it. He missed a lot of shots. They ran him. They got him some looks from 3, and he was 2 of 8. He missed shots. I thought they did a good job of getting him in decent positions to score. And then on the other end, I don't know. I feel like since he's come back from what was the last? He had a little injury spell, right? Where a
knee sprain that hurt, and 2 games back, and he's not looked right.
Right. Defensively, he has not looked the same since that injury, which is all the Cavaliers, who are the best offense in the NBA, and then Memphis, but
right.
There's not a large sampling here, but he also missed some games earlier before that. I don't know. I mean, I was singing his praises as making a case to be first team all defense, toward the end of November. And I feel like since then, there's just been a little bit of a fall off. And I don't know if that's injuries, but like the defensive playmaking is just not there. Like he had 0 blocks. He had 3 steals, which was nice. But that, a lot of that is Memphis, the sloppiness with which Memphis plays when they don't have Ja and they don't have Desmond Bane. But he was such a defensive playmaker in the first month and a half of the season. And I feel like they've lost a little bit of that. I don't know how much of that is because the offense stinks so bad that like he's putting up more shots and there's more responsibility for him on offense when all these guys are out, and maybe that takes away from his defense. I don't know the answer
He's
to
really
that.
good in first quarters and then he dies.
Yeah.
His first quarters have been solid. Like that Sacramento game, he was great. I thought he's very good in this first quarter, and then he just collapses.
5 assists and only 2 turnovers, which is like really that's a great ratio for him. But he was 7 of 22 from the floor. Like he just missed a ton of shots.
Yeah,
and I didn't feel like he was like I felt like they were mostly good shots for him, right? Like
a lot of them looked rushed and uncomfortable. Like he's really good at that 10 to 12 foot floater, and he had a few that look like, oh shit, I'm gonna throw it at the backboard kind of things. And it's and I really thought that Scottie Pippen Jr. kind of put him on skates a couple of times defensively. And Pippen Jr. is 6'1" at most. The comments are kind of roasting the guys. Oh, he's a G League player. And it's like, go look at that dude's stat lines from this year. He is much more than a G League player.
Oh, he is not just doing this to the Mavericks.
No,
he has been playing very well.
He's just another example of the Memphis Grizzlies being able to pick up good guys and turn them into functional players. Like this game, it frustrates you to no end because if you're a Mavs fan and you're not that familiar with these guys, you're like, who the hell is John Conchar? And the dude has where is he here? Is he even in the Conchar had 13 rebounds. Like the Grizzlies had 3 guys in their starting lineup with 10 rebounds or more.
I feel like John Conchar is like Memphis Dwight Powell. And I know he hasn't been on the team as long as
only good.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dwight.
Sorry. No, just like he's just been around. I know, and he's been on the team since 2019, 2020. So like not a ton, but for like a role player, it's kind of like role players usually shuffle around. So like kind of like Dwight Powell found a home. Maybe he just there. And what's funny is, outside with no Bane and no Ja Morant, like you would have figured for Memphis to win this game, their rookie Jaylen Wells, who has been killing it this year.
Yeah.
Earnestly making a case for rookie of the year, shot 3 of 11, and he got the free throw line a ton, so he still scored 17 points, but he still had 17. Yeah, his bad game, bad rookie, 17 and 11, but he was 3 of 11 from the floor, 1 of 5 from 3, and it was like, if you would have told me that he would have shot that before the game, I would have said the Mavericks would have won. So that feels a little, like you kind of let go of the rope there. Like you should have taken advantage of that a little bit more. But look at Memphis's bench, man.
They carved it. Yeah. The bench, those are the guys that really carved Dallas up. I mean, Jay Huff.
That was interesting. They went to the double stretch big lineup because Edie was terrible and the Mavericks played him pretty well. And I think Lively and then Gafford before Gafford was like, because Edie's is much like, he's a good player, not trying to downplay him, but like Lively, like them going against the Mavericks center, him going against the Mavericks center rotation is like, he's not, that's a good matchup for the Mavericks is what I'm trying to say. And then they went to Huff. He played 28 minutes and you're playing Huff and Jackson at the same time. So you could play 5 out.
Yep.
Even though Jackson only took 2 threes, they got to play that 5 out.
Space was there. Right.
Yes, there was a lot of space. Helped with Pippen getting to the rim. Helped with them get to the they got to the free throw line 35 times.
Fans are super pissed about this, and I'm just like they marched to the line because they spread Dallas out and got them at great angles.
Right? Did they get a beneficial whistle more than the Mavs? Sure, but they also, like you said, they spread them out with 5 out with Huff and Jackson as the 2 bigs, and they kind of dribbled by anyone they really wanted to. I mean, offensively is really the reason why the Mavericks lost this game, but you can't expect the offense to be that much, how much better is it going to be without Luka and Kyrie? Like defensively, like Memphis, they scored about, what is it? They scored about 114 per 100 possessions, which is like league average. Like you let Memphis without Ja, without Marcus Smart, without Desmond Bane score league average offensively. Like that feels like a lot. Like that's bad. Like you shouldn't have let them do that. So yeah, defensively, I felt like that was where they were going to win this game, and they kind of just let Memphis do what they wanted. And if it weren't for some of the turnovers Memphis had, they probably would have won this game like wire to wire.
Right. Oh, brother.
Do you want to talk about Jaden Hardy before we leave?
No, because it's
like, you know,
only thing I was.
Am I going to get you in trouble?
No. I mean, I was a little frustrated with our local broadcast. No, because we've not talked about Kyrie's injury at all, and I think that. I think that's the thing we should.
And you have perspective on this because
because I have had a fucking spine, like a bulging disc that turned into an L4, L5 micro discectomy. Now I'm not an NBA player. I was 27 years old. I battled through and was stupid about my recovery, so I made things worse. But when you know the Mavericks report it as a lumbar sprain, which what the fuck is that? Just lie better. This is like when I get mad at my 8-year-old son when he's like, I didn't do the thing that I saw him do clearly. Just like lie to me better. So the broadcast team is put in this position to say that Kyrie's out with a lumbar issue, where it has been reported by ESPN and Shams Charania and not denied by the Mavericks that he has a bulging disc and will be out 1 to 2 weeks. There is a level of concern to where I went on my season to where I'm like, you know what? We just got to make it till Luka gets back. To what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now?
Yeah, because 1 to 2 weeks is optimistic for this.
It's just like with Luka's calf thing where it gives the Mavericks, it's phrased in such a way to give them time to figure it out, to figure out how to market this, to figure out how to PR spin it. In a way, Drew in the chat says, I mean, that technically is a lumbar issue. That's what I mean. Like it allows like a PR element to this, and I get it, but I hate it.
Lumbar sprain sounds better than bulging disc.
Right, I kind of what you're trying to say. Like it. And you know the NBA players recently who have had basically bulging disc issues that come to mind are Ben Simmons, who it effectively ended his already ridiculously weird career. Michael Porter Jr., before he came into the NBA, he had multiple back surgeries.
Why Denver was able to draft him.
And you know, it robbed Porter Jr. of a lot of what made him a special player. Dwight Howard, who when he was with the Lakers, and he eventually came back, but it took him like 3 solid years. And I'm not saying like Kyrie's going to get surgery or anything like that, but I'm saying like there's not like when it comes to nervous system issues, like anything spinal, every person is very different. It's not like Luka with his calf strain, where we know the way Luka makes his calf better is he doesn't do anything. Like that's the answer. He does not do cardio work. Like he has to let the wound heal. Whereas this rest could help. The other options are injections, are train like they told my dumb ass when I was like 25, they're like, you just need to strengthen your core. And I'm like, have you guys seen Kyrie Irving's core? This man is a ballerina. He's a wizard. Like if anything, he's almost in too good a shape. So I'm just like, what is going to happen here? And again, I don't know enough. I don't know enough about his medical issue, but I'm just saying when you see bulging disc, the range of outcomes are wide. So I hope he's okay. And it takes this thing from one season to another. And so when I was complaining about the broadcast, what happened along the same time is they also started talking about how good Jaden Hardy's played in recent games. And I was just like, what are we talking about, guys? Like Hardy was fine. Hardy also had 4. Hardy shot us back into the game. Hardy's turnovers were also really catastrophic. But so were everybody else's turnovers. So it's not like Hardy sits alone on that island.
No. I mean, if anything, at least he made some shots to compensate. Yeah. He was literally the only guy on the team that made shots.
Yeah, no, and they put him in his position to succeed, and he did well. And then it's like he got a little ahead of his skis and tried to attack the rim with 4 guys and got blocked by 4 guys at once. And it's like,
yeah, which is going to happen,
I mean, Sri asks in the chat, are there any instances where a back issue is not serious, like with Ben Simmons or Howard? There have to be. I can't think of any at the moment because worst case scenario is where my brain is.
Our man Jeff Stotts, who's the sports injury expert for the NBA, that he's the go-to. I think he messaged that like the similar what they're announcing what Kyrie has, or reportedly the bulging disc issue. He says his database has like the average missed time like 28 days, which is a month, which is a little bit longer than the 1 to 2 months. So again, it's kind of like what you said, where it could be he comes back in 2-3 weeks, or he comes back in a month, or something else happens, because backs are tricky. Like that's it's not a sprained ankle where you just put some ice on it and you rehab it and you come back in a week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. You can't really fake getting around a back issue too.
Right.
You can't
play.
It's hard to play on that.
Right.
I'm theorizing there,
and you get to this point to where like our chat is about this, my Twitter is about this, my DMs are about this, where it's like, oh well, like the Mavericks gonna tank, and I'll just kind of go from here, and we can kind of see how the season goes. Tanking is intentional losing.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
They are going to lose.
You're saying they don't need to do it intentionally.
They don't need to do it intentionally.
Yeah, they've been trying the last 5 games.
They're trying to win.
Yeah, and also I know that they've won 5 and they've lost 5 in a row, so it looks like they're never going to win another. I know when a team loses this many in a row, you think they're never going to win another game again. But you really need to look at the standings at some of the teams beneath the Mavericks. I mean, there are teams at the bottom of both the West and the Eastern Conference that might not reach the amount of wins the Mavericks have right now.
Yeah.
Just to put it in perspective.
So like Portland won the other night again too. And it's like everybody in the NBA loses their mind. The season is so stinking long.
There are 5 teams that don't have 10 wins yet, and the Mavericks have 20. Just to put that in perspective of like, okay, let's say you tank. I don't think you're getting below Toronto, Charlotte, Washington, Utah, New Orleans. Like, there's just the bad teams this season are spectacularly bad.
So that's sort of where we are with that. We'll be back. I'm not going to do another post-game show, guys. I just don't have it in me. Like this is depressing, and I want to have a therapy to talk it out with people that really need it. But I don't have the juice. I just don't have it. And I feel bad about that. It part of why I wanted to do this was to do fan interaction and to talk with people that I consider my friends about basketball. But this stinks, man.
Yeah, and it's hard to talk about because it's like injuries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're going to do our best to try to talk about what's going on the floor, because you guys don't want to open up your podcast app or your phone or wherever YouTube and just hear us talk for 20 minutes going, well, they're hurt. Oh, well, get them next time. Like no one wants to listen to that. So we'll do what we can to talk about what's going on with what the players that they have. And, they're down again. Yeah. Then Gafford sprains his ankle, and Kid just said, I tried to check post game. He says it sounds like he's going to be out for some time. And, he didn't even try to come back in. He sprained it, hobbled to the locker room.
Kid thinks he's out for a while.
That might be high ankle sprain territory, which is not the one you can just kind of, rub some dirt on it and come back. Like those keep you out. So we're, looking back.
We're going to keep podcasting because we managed to get 20 minutes out of this. And I don't.
Can I say one super positive thing before we go?
course.
I think Maxi Kleba had more drives to the basket in this game than he had the last 4 years combined. So way to go, buddy. Like that. I'm not even trying to be pedant, like sarcastic or glib. Like that was that kind of surprise. Like he drove the ball hard a couple times. Good for him. Good for Maxi.
Well, early game tomorrow night. I'm actually don't know if I don't think I'm going to be able to see any of this game. My kid has 7:30 basketball practice. The game starts at 6:30. I never miss games. Like I never really truly miss games. Like even when I'm not on the podcast, I find a way to like have it adjacent. So this is
really playing again tomorrow. I should probably
Lakers on TNT.
How are they playing the Lakers? Because it's in Dallas. Okay,
yeah,
like the Lakers. It's
right. So they come back tonight, and then they play tomorrow. I mean, like I'm not a schedule truther guy, but the Mavericks have had a garbage schedule travel wise.
Travel wise, it's been really tough. They haven't had a lot of home. They've had a lot of long road trips. And
yeah.
But
I do. Thanks to Cowboy, our man Brandon, letting me know that he hopes the Chiefs do well in the playoffs. Well, the way my sports fandom goes is like if the Mavericks are, and this has happened the past 2 years, the Mavericks sucking in the spring usually means the Chiefs play well. So we'll see about that. Okay, Josh and I'll be back tomorrow night, even if I haven't seen the game. and Josh can tell me about the game, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that'll be interesting enough.
Thanks so much for hanging out. Everybody be good. Enjoy your week. Go Mavs.